Hello everybody and welcome to this brand new YouTube series of Britain's farm toys. This is a new concept that I've sort of come up with, is to try and recreate a let's play only using the models and toys that I would have used as a youngster growing up. And I have to say, thanks to the wonderful modding community of Farming Simulator, I have managed to almost replicate all models and toys that I had from the Christmas of 1985 onwards. I've tried to start start the series from the Christmas of 1985 and the toys that I received for Christmas. Starting off with the Volvo BM 2654 tractor, which is the exact model that I had, although I do confess I don't remember it having a green engine, but that's just the way that it is. Like I say, I have virtually managed to replicate every toy that I had, and I am so excited for this series. A little bit of a confession with these two. These two tractors were not bought for me in 1985. This particular tractor my dad had in his collection and gave it to me a few years later in the late 80s, but I've decided to start with it because in 1985 my dad did have that on the shelf or in the cabinet. And this tractor, the Fordson Super Major, I have because I actually have a special affinity with this tractor. So way back in the 60s, when this tractor was first produced, the local farm where in 2007 I started my very first farm job had this tractor brand new. It was one of the very few tractors they had brand new, and although it did have, their one did have the roll bar on the back, but yeah, it was the tractor that they had very first brand new, and my nan was the very first person on the farm to drive that tractor, and apparently the job that she did with it was carting vined peas, and my granddad was the pea viner driver. We're not talking modern day pea viner driver, we're talking a tow behind power PTO driven harvester. And there is a cine video the farm has, and I've seen the video. It's like 12 seconds long, of my granddad driving the harvester and my nan with the Fordson Major and the little brown wooden trailer collecting the peas. I can't remember if that was off of the floor or whether the harvester was able to load into the trailer. I've got a feeling it was off the floor. So this is in there just because, as I say, my nan was the first one ever to drive the tractor on the farm, and I started on the same farm in 2007 in my mid-20s, and in the winter of 2007, I started in the August, in the winter of 2007, myself and the colleague that I worked with, the other farmhand that I worked with, we restored and rebuilt that very same tractor that my nan had driven in the, I think it was the late 50s, early 60s, that she'd driven that tractor. And yeah, we restored it, and in the spring of that year, I got to, that became, the Fordson Super Major became my go home vehicle. So if we were at work and we were working overtime or whatever, we were allowed to go home, both of us, at 5, and we had to be back at 6. Both of us lived very local to the farm. I think I lived probably about a mile, maybe 2 miles away from the farm. So rather than take my car, and it cost me diesel, I was allowed to take the Ford Super Major home every day for my tea, and that carried on for until I left the farm. Actually, that was known as my farm vehicle. The other guy that I worked with, he had the farm truck, I had this, and let me tell you, I definitely won. I loved having this tractor and driving it around when I had a few little errands to run. If I had to go to the local John Deere dealer to get a bit to get parts or whatever, I always used to take this tractor. It was fantastic. I loved it. My favourite model from that year was this, the New Holland TR85 combine. The combine itself is an absolute replica of the toy one. The header is slightly different. The header, the galvanised bat wings on the, or bat paddles I think they're called, on this combine were actually yellow on the model, whereas on this one they're silver, and I don't know how to retexture models and mods, so I've had to leave it silver, but it's pretty much, and apart from as well they had the sort of like half circle shaped, the horseshoe shaped crop dividers, and again this one has the standard crop dividers that we see on most combines today. But apart from that, it is the mod that I had, although the mod didn't have the wing mirrors either. But yeah, I absolutely love this combine. A few years later, in the early to mid 90s, I bought the Power Farm from Britain's range, the toy one with the TW Ford tractor, which I do have as a mod, but we won't be using that for a little while because, as I say, we're starting basically in 1985 now. The trailer, I couldn't find a 1985 trailer that I got bought with my tractors, so I've gone for the very first class silage trailer that Britain's did, which I think came out again in the very early 90s. But and that's as close as I could get. It's not a class trailer, but it was as close as I could get with the white back to that particular model. Then we've got the red baler, which again is slightly different to the actual Britain's one. But the reason why I've got it is because it is the one that represents it as closely as I can get it. It would have been nice to have had the mod out of 2019, which was a green version of the Britain's model. And in doing my research for this series of Britain's toys, they did actually release a green one. So if we could have had 2019 mod, if I knew how to convert mods, we would have had the 2019 one, and we would have actually had a Britain's 1985 round baler, but I don't know how to do that, so unfortunately we're kind of stuck with that one. But it's still a very good mod and a very good representation of what we're aiming for. This is the Massey Ferguson pull behind drill, slightly different again to the model, because it didn't have the transport wheels. You could only pull it that way, but this one does have the transport wheels, just because that drill is a little bit too wide to drive around this map. When you were playing, when you were farming on the carpet, you didn't have that issue, but on the map we did, so I had to find one with transport wheels, and I was lucky enough to find one on the mod hub. And this is again as close as I can get to the actual Britain's Massey Ferguson drill. Now I actually got a hay box set for Christmas that year. It had this mower and this hay bob in it. The hay bob was ever so slightly different. That was a like a really sort of creamy light yellow, a bit like the New Holland combine, but I couldn't find one with the colouring at the back, so this is as close as I could get. And as I say, it also had this mower in. It also had the Britain's wheel rake, and as of yet, although I have found a wheel rake that does look like the Britain's one, it misses quite a lot of the grass when you're trying to rake it up, because obviously I've done loads and loads of testing with these mods to make sure that they are all good and that you know they're going to allow the game to run smoothly. So I've had to go for this one. It's the in-game SIP windrower. Obviously it wasn't available in 1985, but that is the sort of most old-fashionedest one that I could find, and for now. But as soon as I do find one that's more in keeping with Britain's, I will swap them over, and I won't charge the farm for that. I will just swap it over so that it makes it more Britain's. And then coming on to the last few bits of equipment, we've got the 3 for a plough, which Britain's did. It was actually this one that came out in 1985, and it had the yellow wheel, but it was blue, but as I say, it had the yellow wheel. And then the 3 for a plough came out in 1987, I think it was, the reversible one. Yeah, I decided to have that one as well, just because it is going to help ever so slightly. So the way this save game is going to work, as I've already said, is we're going to be using predominantly, well, exclusively all the toys that I had growing up. So we start with Britain's, but we will be moving into Siku, and we will be moving into Ertl, Universal Hobbies, Weeking, and the other company that completely escapes me at this moment, but we're a long way off having any of their models in the game, so we'll be able to discover who they are. So yeah, we're basically here. We're on Purbeck, as I've said. We've got 20 cows, so we start off with a very small dairy, no food. We will also start off with no money, and the reason I've done it like this is because the cows, if I don't feed them, won't die. Their health won't go up and they won't produce milk, but they won't die. So it gives us a chance to say we can start by cutting a couple of grass fields. This is the area that we own from the beginning. So from field 37 down there, around there, and then across up there, and then to there. Ignore the cotton fields. They are growing. But they will be either cultivated in or discarrowed in and then ploughed. We will be doing precision farming, however we won't be doing it this year on the farm, mainly because I can't afford to do all of the steps that would be required, but we are going to be doing precision farming with these toys. And yeah, I am absolutely chuffed to bits with this, the idea and concept of this series. I think it's going to be an absolutely fantastic Let's Play, and I'm really looking forward to it. We will quickly show you the Purbeck farm. There's the cow pasture, and my 20 cows, the barbed wire fence across, but 20 cows in there. The pasture is actually a field, so we're going to be able to look after that grass and fertilise it and do all the good stuff that we want to do. But yeah, so that's the cows. So we come into the farmyard. This shed, obviously I didn't have this in 1985, but from what I've seen, there were no actual sheds available in 1985. They didn't start appearing until the early to mid 90s. So although it does look very modern, I have tried to keep it as sort of in the Britain's theme, as British as I can. And so that's why I've gone for that shed. And it's the same with the silage pits, or pit. I've gone for this one. It's obviously a very modern design, and again not in keeping with 1985, but there was nothing on the market from Britain's for silage pits and stuff like that. So I've gone with this, just because it will last us out the entirety of the save game. It might be that later on we need to add a second one once we get more cows. This particular cow barn only holds 100 cows, which is a bit disappointing. So it does mean that we're going to have to probably build a secondary elsewhere. Not a secondary, a secondary. And this one will then probably be turned over to calves. So all of our calves, or maybe even bull stock, will come here, or meat stock, as it would be more commonly known as, and then the new dairy, wherever that may well be, will be elsewhere, where we'll be able to have a lot more cows. As I say, we own all of this. That's just an empty shed that's on the side. It's quite in keeping, so I quite like it, so I've kept it. These little gates and like fencing, gate fencing, was available in Britain's, although it didn't come out until 1987. And the very first ones that came out were wooden, but a year later they were replaced by the replica metal shed. So again, I've kept it just because it's not too far out from where we're starting. This is obviously just decoration, so I can't really do much about that. Come across the road, we've got the house there, the farmhouse. Again, that's not really, there wasn't really a farmhouse available in Britain's Toys, and I'm not sure if there is today, to be fair. Although I do still collect the Britain's Toys and the other models as well now from the other companies. I've not sort of been keeping up with the collection in the last couple of 3 years. I've had a great deal going off, both health issues wise, and the breakup of a long-term relationship and the start of a new relationship. So I've been neglecting collecting the toys, but we come down here and then we've got these little bits here. Now these sheds I've kept. Again, Britain's, as I say, 1985 didn't have sheds, but they're kind of sort of Britain's brushwood universal hobby kind of sheds. So I've sort of kept them because obviously we do need places to store the equipment. So the plan is, as I say, we'll start the farm with no money. So one of the very first jobs that we'll be doing is some contracts. And we will also be cutting some grass for not only hay, but also silage as well, and also grass as well, because as quickly as I can, I want to, just over in that direction is the sheep farm, and I want to buy it because it will join onto this farm quite nicely, and it just gives us something else to do. So I want to do that, but I also want to, possibly in the winter of the first year, so when we start the game it will be the summer, it'll be August, but I probably in the if we have the money, want to buy the Britain's backhoe that I actually purchased for my birthday in April 1986. So I kind of sort of went with it, and we will probably go with it because, as I say, by the time we get it, it will be close to when my birthday would have been, and we will have that, and we will be using Terrafarm to level this higher ground from the corner of that shed and to the corner of that shed back to the hedge. So all of this will be the same terrain height as what those two sheds and the cow sheds are built on. The trees we will cut down, and obviously we'll sell the woods, or we'll make wood, make firewood out of the wood and just sell that. I might do that because it was a sort of a 1980s type job to do on the farm, to do log splitting. So I might do that just because with the older tractors that will replicate that quite nicely, and it's again something a bit different that I haven't normally done. But I would like to, as I say, extend this out to there because I think this is just wasted ground really. And then we can fence or hedge this off from this corner, and then this bit here will remain grass that we can get silage and hay off. and then just some grass for the sheep. But there may be that the sheep pen is a grass field, so we'll be able to use their own grass and put them out. I don't think the grazing mod is included in Purbeck. I'll have to check that. If it is, great, I'll put it in, and that will save us having to do that. But if it's not, then that's the way that we can do it. So as I say, terraforming is going to be a thing on this map. Not only just for this bit, but for when we come to do other projects as well, because there's spare land that way as well. If I just quickly take you around here, as I say, there's spare land up there, but there is also some spare land around here, behind here. This is the silo area, so this is where the silo is. Again, I will be changing this. Eventually this silo will go, because Britain's, and as far as I know, none of the other toy manufacturers have anything like that. And what will replace them with down here, or probably this side actually, because I lost my bearings there. This side, we will just run past this hedge, and then we'll be able to see where we're actually talking about. So this bit in here, what I plan to do is to level this off, and again take this hill basically back to about here, so about that tree, just before that tree, level all this off, and then this will be a farm extension this way. This is connected to the cow pen. As far as I can tell, after extensively and obsessively watching these cows, they do not come past this tree line. I'm probably going to be proved wrong eventually, but as I say, I have been watching and they haven't come past yet. So from the tree line this way to the fence, this will all be levelled and flattened. The hedge is taken up, or taken out, or whatever, and we will then be able to extend. And we're probably going to either do British grain sheds. We'll put them in with put the crops in with elevators, as you would in Britain. Pretty much still today, although the last farm that I worked for before I had to give up because of my health, we were moving over to the sheds with the pits, and then the overhead elevators would load them into bins, and each farm had, each building had 28 bins in them, and we could fill the bins. I can't remember, I think the bins held 100 tons, I think, if I remember correctly, and that was how we stored our grains. It was all grains that went in there. Oh, and there were some pulses as well, actually. We did keep the beans and the peas in there as well, the harvest peas. But yeah, so that's the long-term plan for this side and the other side, and hopefully, as I say, it's going to be an absolutely fantastic, brilliant series. But I'm going to leave it for there. Thank you ever so much for watching and listening to me, and I'll see you on the first episode where we begin our work. Thank you very much. Bye.